Politicians are bought and sold. They give to the rich as they take from the old. They give to the rich as they rob from the young. On the end of their lines, at the point of a gun.
Right then, can you introduce yourself please, Ed?
My name's Ed Deedigan. I am the independent candidate for the Chippenham constituency.
Right, tell me what your vision is. Give us a flavour.
Well, as you know from your fantastic research, I've been working in an organisation that works with some of the more disenfranchised areas of our society for 25 years. And through that, worked with homeless people, all sorts, and also advised major sort of successful companies as well, looking at the sustainable development agenda, but through the sort of social aspects, so through people's experience. And I've been advising Home Office, Department of Culture, various ministers around children in care and all our specialities, and working up and down the country with different county councils, etc., and town councils. And I have to say that I think there's a massive difference between what the politicians have traditionally said, my experience and my colleagues' experience of what's happening on the ground, and therefore I've thought, well, actually, maybe it's because they don't have that lived experience, and maybe I need to be advocating directly in a political way, which I've never done before, from a factual position, to look at child poverty. So that's a massive concern for us. We work with lots of children, we have an alternative education programme. So having to deal with all the emotional aspects of that, and then you look at the housing scenario. We do homeless projects as well. We work with some fantastic people up and down the country on that. And you kind of think, well, wait a minute, these are fundamental, basic needs of human beings. It's not a theory, it's a kind of known need. So if we don't address the known needs, what are we doing? Where is the real focus? And I think that it's distorted, it's been politicised, it's ideologised, if that's a word. I've just made it up. If it isn't, you can have a t-shirt printed. But it's that. It's like, wait a minute, we're working with some of the hardest areas, up and down the country, Manchester, London, you name it, we work there. And in rural areas. And you're looking at it and you're thinking, wait a minute, there must be a different process. And it's not a political ideology, it's basic common sense. How many people are there? How many houses do we need? How do people access them? More importantly, how come we've got more than ever before children in poverty? For me, that is a crime against humanity, literally.
So you've got the known need through your own experiences on the ground as you describe it. What's he going to do about it?
Well, advocate. And, you know, I think you probably know that most of the business in Parliament isn't done on the green benches, it's done well before that, and that's in the corridors and in the bars, bizarrely. So, having advised at ministerial level before, I have a little inkling, and I have experience of working, shall we say, alongside politicians. So my idea is literally reverse engineering what they've been traditionally asking me to do, which is advising them because they know they don't have the lived experience, and now bringing that lived experience directly to them and looking at making those priorities heard in whatever way is necessary, because it's too important.
So if your concept is to be that bridge, if you like, from the lived experiences to, like you say, the corridors of Westminster, what's the nuts and bolts? I mean, this costs the logistics of it, the money, the funding.
Right.
You know, give us, how is this going to work from an ideology and a dream to reality?
Okay, so we all know that there are massive tax loopholes. We know that there are offshore accounts. Some very famous people, some very famous politicians have made use of them. So I'd absolutely look at restructuring the whole tax system, so that you couldn't, all the big industries that earn from the outside, anything that's earned in this country needs to be taxed in this country, and it has to be given to the general pot. But politicians, business people, etc., cannot put their money in offshore accounts. So looking at restructuring corporation tax, the whole aspect of tax is pretty dodgy. You can get away with it if you've got great accountants and stuff, but your common person who works has to give a bigger proportion of their tax than people who are massively wealthy. So
what you're talking about is a wealth tax, similar to the Greens.
Well, it's interesting. I'm more than happy to share good ideas. Not I put that out before they did, and it's not a competition, it's a mission. So I'm glad to see that they're saying that, because the more people that realise, actually, this is totally unfair, it's unjust. And look at some of the people that are leading the parties. I mean, not that Rishi was ever voted in as Prime Minister. Incredibly wealthy. There's all sorts of speculation about contracts and stuff that he's given to his father-in-law. Look at Ed Davey from the Liberal Democrats.
Okay, yeah. We know that there's a population of affluence in Westminster. We know that, and you talk about loopholes. How much do you expect to accumulate from these sorts of loopholes and these sorts of wealth taxes? I mean, what's the figures, and how are you going to put those figures into Chippenham and other areas?
Quite simply, what you do is, once you set, recalibrate the whole tax, well, it won't be me doing it, obviously, it'll be me suggesting it. You've already said, the Green Party is saying, which is great. The more and more that takes momentum, and people realise, particularly old hand politicians realise that people aren't going to put up with it anymore, that will recalibrate the tax system at source, but more importantly also change, it's what I call a morality check. All the people that got us through the COVID, all the different industries, different jobs, whether it's the doctors, nurses, whether it's paramedics, whoever it is, should not, if we can't give them a tax raise, give them a tax cut. And I mean an extreme one. I'm talking about, if your job is deemed to be, and thankfully ours was as well with key workers, if you're a key worker in a situation for our society, you need to be rewarded that throughout, just in case stuff like that happens again, and I predict it will happen again, that you are taxed at a much less burden. So the police, the armed forces, farmers, it's one of them ones like, look everyone, farmers provide the most essential ingredient to our survival, and yet they're discarded. I don't see too many political people talking about that. So basically, we are talking about a massive job, but if you don't start it, if you don't put the ideas down, people won't have anything to decide about. They won't be going, okay, well, what are you talking about? So, well, just change the tax system is a massive part of what we're talking about. Corporation tax, etc.
So you've mentioned farmers. Let's bring it back local. Farmers, we've got a very green county, whether that be tractors or tanks, that is Wiltshire in its essence.
Yeah.
If you were to become Chippenham's MP, tell me what you would do for this brilliant town.
Right. So, and it's not just the town, remember, I actually came to this area because my father was in the military, so I've obviously got a bias towards, I simultaneously don't agree with violence, so try that one for an interesting dichotomy. But at the same time, I know lots of servicemen and ex-servicemen, so I know that they are trying their best, their hardest. Some of the living quarters aren't up to scratch. The conditions and how they're treated once they've been in the line of duty, as we say, or the line of fire, is appalling. Mental health and everything else. So the 5% tax rate would apply to military service people and police, etc., etc. But the point being is, their living conditions, some of them are appalling. It's gone. This isn't just recent. This has gone right back to the Spanish Armada, etc., etc. The military have always been used and abused, so they need to be, and so are farmers. Again, with county farms. Sorry, I've gone from one to the other, but I may as well. We're here to do that. County farms. There's all talks about building on them. It's absurd. If COVID has taught us nothing, and Brexit as well. The supply of food is essential. So if we don't honour our farmers and we don't look at what they need to keep going, and again, a different tax rate, a different tax incentive, but also apprenticeships. On our county farms, if farmers that run the county farms also give really useful apprenticeships to young people, not only are the young people doing something essential, they're not just kind of a hobby, it's not wouldn't that be nice? It's essential, but more, as importantly, they're getting involved in nature. Nature's really beneficial to the mental health. But then you've got a sustainability. You're talking about seasonally produced food. You're not talking about long lines of aeroplanes and whatever from abroad. You're talking about seasonally produced food that can be utilised by our communities. In Wiltshire, county farms, low tax for the farmers, massive support, having apprenticeships, then those supplying schools, nursing homes, care homes, and already you've got a mild utopia going on there.
Okay, so you're talking in summary, you're talking about your priorities being food security,
Yep.
economy for Wiltshire, given that we're a large farming area, and the apprenticeships you've talked about,
Yeah.
and defence,
Yeah.
and you're going to do that by wealth taxes essentially, and corporation taxes.
And recalibrating lots of different priorities. There's lots of stuff that have been for instance, I would have a percentage for education, because we work up, not just because we work in education, we not know how hard the teachers have it, and education things. I would have GDP, bigger percentage every year, so no politician, no political party, no ideology gets involved, a percentage of the GDP for education and for health. And I'm a big advocate of health. I've just big up the Bath Royal United Hospital, because I've had 2 sorts of cancer that they treated. Your good selves, the BBC have been talking today about this massive waiting
Sure.
times.
Well, come on, sum it
Yeah.
up then, because
Yeah.
no politician can do everything,
No,
and
no,
it
not
sounds
at all.
like you've
No,
got
I've got-
a dream
Right.
for each sector.
haven't.
Sum it up for
No,
us.
I
Come
haven't.
on.
So, starting with the children, because they're our future, sing a song about that. Focus on eradicating child poverty and homelessness. And from that equal, leveled up playing field, you would have less mental health, you'd have less negative spend on health or poor health for people, but we'd also be able to foster and grow a new generation that hasn't got some of the drawbacks and what it's like to be poor, not have enough food to go to school, not to be able to concentrate at school. So you'd have all round, you'd have a much more viable community.
And sum up how you would, in terms of funding, sum up how you would fund this progress, this social progress, as you might describe it.
Actually, when you start, so if you cut down on your negative spend, so antisocial behaviour, a lot of that comes from desperation and poor education, not because of the schools, although they are oversubscribed, it's because the grounding and the foundation that a child has. If you're not fed, and no fault of the parents, and we work with lots of kids in care, so that's a bigger proportion, more support for social services. But if you start with a better foundation, all the negative spends that we do with we have to spend on antisocial behaviour, the youth
But
so you stop spending there, you have more to
this,
spend.
you're talking about cultural shifts, and that takes time.
I am
so you
starting.
can't necessarily stop the negative spend and put that immediately into, let's say, free meals at school or whatever it is to get these children fed.
Yeah.
So there's a gap there.
Yeah.
From word go, you're now the MP for Chippenham.
Yeah.
How are you going to make an immediate impact on the town, or will it not be immediate? Is it more of a long-term vision?
You said it yourself. We're talking about how long it takes to turn around an oil tanker. This is a country that is mired in centuries of imbalance, I would say, and the reason why the Tories, bless them, were talking about levelling up, because there's a massive need to level up. So when's that going to start? Well, it may as well start here. This is a great county, so if it's going to start with children, it should, because they're our future. Everything I'm saying makes sense, doesn't it? Keep nodding, I dare you. It does. You start with the children. You look at homes for everyone, including service people. Once people are secure there, they can look at the environmental issues. They can look at everything else with a clearer head. So there, intrinsically in that, is a better economy, because you've got more functional people working, and you've got a bigger workforce. You've got a more productive workforce.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Done. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
indeed.
On the end of their lines, at the point of a gun, and we'll work till the end of our days to keep the few in their comfortable ways. We'll do as we're bid, 'cause we're programmed that way till the switch is switched and we all have our say. So sleep in peace while you can.